Hi, friends. Pastor Jenny here. And, again, it's been crazy busy, but I have to admit that the reason I waited for a couple of days was because I didn't know what to say about the 26th and then now yesterday. But I made a commitment with you guys that I was going to follow this trial, and I will follow this trial because there's much to be gained from following this trial. There's much to be gained about truth and not allowing ourselves to be deceived and understanding what real Christianity is all about and what Jesus is all about. And I just my blood boils every time I hear these people talk about how what motivated them was their love for God and their desire for more. My name is Jenny McIntyre. I am proudly a follower of Jesus, a pastor, and a life and executive coach, also former practicing attorney. And of course, anytime that there's a case that has a connotation that has to do with either motherhood or Jesus, I want to jump in. And so I've been following this case. The link is there for the playlist. I'm following on a daily basis. But the last two episodes I've been covering 2 days at a time, and it's been extremely, extremely heavy. And so let me summarize this for you. The causes of death of Tylee and JJ finally came out. We knew when the trial started that the cause of death for Tammy Daybell was asphyxiation, manual asphyxiation. So we know that she was murdered in her own bed. We also know that now that Tylee cause of death is homicide for an undetermined reason. We learned that this is a very common way to categorize crimes that are obviously the result of somebody else killing somebody, but for whatever reason, the cause of death cannot be determined. And obviously, we know that these kids were found 2 or 3 months, 2.5 to almost 3 months after they are believed to have been killed. And so their bodies had deteriorated. But Tylee is a crazy story. And by the way, this is going to be very gruesome. And I'm not going into a lot of details like court TV and hidden crime. Like if you want to hear the whole trial, that's a completely different story. But still, I can't believe that I cannot do this video without going into some details. And I'm going to leave it as non-gruesome as possible, while at the same time being informative. Tylee's remains were presented to the examiner in 3 bags. The third bag had 5 separate bags. Her body was in smithereens. Her body, although they cannot establish the cause of death, it is said that the way her body was dismembered is very consistent with anger, because she was not dismembered through joints, which is normally the way people are dismembered because it's easier to dismember people that way. Her bones and her pelvis and her ribs, it shows like actual stab wounds, like with a sharp object. And there's a lot of repeated strikes in the pelvic area. And it makes no logical sense from a practical perspective, as horrible as this may sound. And so the question is, why? The question is if they were truly doing this to deliver the kids from the demons that bound them. Why the overkill? And what kind of anger could have Lori, Shad, and Alex possibly had towards a 16-year-old teenage girl? You know, I believe in God and I also believe in Satan. I don't think it's possible to really believe in God unless you're willing to believe in his adversary, because if you believe in God and God says he has an adversary, when you choose not to believe in the adversary, then you really not believe in God. So the question is, do you really believe in God, right? So when I hear the gruesome details of how Tali's brother was dealt with, because obviously we don't know how she died, and a lot of people are asking, well, was that done to her before she died or after she died? Contrary to JJ, and I'm going to talk to him last, they have not said how many of these injuries were inflicted before or after she died. I hope that they were all inflicted after the fact. I hope that everything that was done to her body, which included burning, chopping, stabbing, I hope that all that was done after she died. But the truth is, we don't know yet. And although they did extensive testing of her remains, because her remains were so strong, so burned, so dismembered, so obliterated in so many ways, the tests could only go that far. So whether we will be able to determine this or not, I'm not sure. A toxicology report does not show that Tylee had any significant amount of drugs as in to cause incapacitation. So truly, let's all hope that it all happened after she died. But you know, I have two children. I have a 15-year-old and a 20-year-old, and I still, when I touch them and hug them, I can still close my eyes and see their beautiful baby bodies when they were first born. And I find their bodies even today to be so magic and so perfect. And it brings me so much joy to touch them and to hug them, and because they're so perfect. And it's so amazing for me to think that those little babies were inside of me many years ago, and now look at them now. And let's not forget, Tylee is Lori's biological daughter. She carried that little girl in her womb. The Bible says that in the last days, we will see that some people have lost their ability to have natural affection. Forget about being a believer. Forget about God. It's only natural that if something has come out of you, you will have the basic natural instinct to protect. Instead, her daughter was minimized to 3 bags. Well, maybe we should say 8 bags, right? Because one of those bags contained 5 different bags. That's so shameful. And her DNA was found in tools found in Chad Daybell's garage. So there's irrefutable evidence that she was chopped there, that she was burned there, which is consistent with the text message he sent to Tammy Daybell, who was then alive, talking about a raccoon that he had burned in the pet cemetery. And that also raised suspicions with the police, because they knew that raccoons did not show up during the day, which was the time where Shad was telling Tammy that had happened. But yeah, that was Tylee. That was that beautiful, precious girl. That's what she was reduced to. Let's talk about JJ, because of all of them, not that there's any way you can find any kind of death fair. But man, can we just stop for a minute? He was 7 years old. We don't know how Tylee died, but we know how JJ died. JJ died by asphyxiation with a plastic bag. When they found JJ, his head was still in that plastic bag. That plastic bag had been affixed to his head with tape. And inside of the bag, where his little head was, his mouth was also shot with heavy-duty tape. The only fingerprints that they found, no surprises here, in those tapes were, besides JJ's himself, were Alex Cox's. You remember how a few hours before he died, he told Sulema, I think I'm going to be their fall guy. Well, no kidding. You did it. And of course, I think everything is showing us that he was being manipulated by his sister. But how can you believe that asphyxiating a little boy to death can somehow protect your sister? And as Lori Vallow's sister said the other day, told her, Summer Shiflett, on the phone, and even her son, Kobe Ryan, told her, if she felt that JJ and Tylee were an obstacle for her to do her mission, why wouldn't she give anybody the opportunity to take care of those babies? The examiner says that there were bruises in JJ's hands. He fought. There were pop vessels in his mouth. He fought. He fought to live. He fought to release himself from that terrible, painful, slow, torturous death. But he had no chance. We're talking about a 7-year-old dealing with an adult. Now, no fingerprints for Lori and Chad Daybell were found, and there should be no surprise about it. After all, he was a prior prophet and angel, and she was some sort of goddess, right? They had someone doing their deed, but the bottom line is we know that when it comes to murder, the person that shoots, that pulls the trigger, is as responsible as the person that planned the event. We follow other crimes in this channel, and you guys already know that we've had people that hire a gunman, convicted, and sometimes getting even more time than the actual trigger person. This is because the law recognizes that having the will and the want to commit a crime and being willing to take action on it is as determining as actually doing the deed. Probably one of the most ridiculous things that I've heard in this cross-examination, the defense cross-examination so far, is this Thomas gentleman gets up and tells one of the examiners that, how do you know he died of asphyxiation? Did you swab his nostrils? How can you tell? And this guy was so clever, and he replies, okay, well, let's go back. He says, he was dead for no other reason. A bag was bound all over his head and taped. His mouth was taped inside that bag. He died because of asphyxiation by a plastic bag. And he's like, the attorney's like, well, based on what I see on TV, and the guy's like, that's scary. And he's like, oh, that caused you scare? He's like, yeah, I base what I'm saying here on my knowledge. And he was like, the attorney was like, well, how does that work? And he said, okay, let me put it to you this way. You are breathing, and then you no longer have air, and you die. And believe it or not, the attorney's response was, well, we can agree to disagree on that. Just like that. I'm telling you guys, during the Ahmaud Arbery case, you know, the kid that was run over by the neighbors until then they fought and one of them shot him. The attorney, they had an attorney that was petulant, that just rubbed people the wrong way. And I remember in the closing arguments, another one of the attorneys of the defense said something about Ahmaud Arbery's black toenails. And I'm not saying that was the only thing that caused the conviction. There were good facts. Same here with the Lori Vallow, there are good facts. But man, when these defense attorneys lose the perspective that people buy from the people they like. And if they want the jurors to buy their theory of the crime, besides good facts, which of course they don't have, at the very least, they need to try not to be so odious that people can stand them. I don't think these attorneys are helping their clients. Same thing with Alex Murdaugh. You know, this Mr. Carpathian, God bless him. I'm sure he's a great attorney, but man, he's petulant and he does not really try very hard to be liked. And of course, you cannot be liked all the time, but you should you can robustly defend your client without being so obnoxious. I don't think these attorneys are doing their clients any justice. And I don't think this attorney is doing Lori Daybell. She's already trying to dig her way out of a very deep, dark hole where she placed herself. I don't think he's making it any easier. One more thing, significant, because there were so many witnesses. So I'm just summarizing this for you. Yesterday, Tammy Daybell's sister took the stand, and she's continuing today. And she's talking about how her sister was not even 50. She's talking about how prior to the murder, Shad Daybell asked her sister, he asked Tammy Daybell to say hi to her family. It's almost like he sent her on a goodbye tour. Like he knew. Now, he would like us to believe that he knew this was going to happen, but the truth is this didn't happen out of natural causes, right? She was manually asphyxiated. And then he lied to everybody around him, to include his own son, who I understand is also going to testify. Ladies and gentlemen, 2 very, very heavy days, and I assume that they're going to continue. The details are horrendous and are a permanent reminder that in the hands of darkness, we are all capable of unspeakable things. On the other side, because I'm a woman of hope, in the hands of light, there's no limitation as to how much light we can bring to our world. And so I encourage you today to embrace the light, to become the light, and to prevent being deceived by never checking your brain out. God did not ask us to stop thinking when it comes to believing. He did not ask us to suspend our ability to analyze and question and discern. On the contrary, he says very, very clearly that we are to test the spirits, that we are to examine the value of a tree by its fruits. Everything about Shad and Lori Daybell and their band of followers screams as to religious arrogance, desire of self-importance, and as the prosecution said, money, murder, and sex at all cost. But where are they now? Where are they? In jail, fighting for their lives after breaking the hearts of so many people that loved and knew them, and in the process of the whole nation who's embraced these beautiful children and the tragedy that befell them. This is a summary of the 26th and the 27th of April of the Lori Vallow trial. I am Pastor and Coach Gene McIntyre. I hope you found this useful, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye.